to On the Scotty Couch. Today I'm talking to Sally Orange. Sally spent 22 years in the army as a physiotherapy officer, and she's done all sorts of incredible things. She's the only person to have completed a marathon in every continent dressed as a piece of fruit, and she's also raised thousands and thousands of pounds for charities. So welcome, Sally. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us. It's a bit of a strange one because obviously I can't actually sit with you on a couch because we're not allowed to. So we're having to speak virtually. But welcome and thanks for joining us today. If you start by telling me a bit about your background. How did you come to be a physiotherapy officer in the army? Is that something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much to invite me onto the virtual couch. And yeah, it was actually wanted to become a physiotherapist started actually when I broke my leg at the age of 16, and that sort of then to realise I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And then when I found out I could do that in the military and in the army, it seemed something that was just a natural thing. While I sat at home, it was the Gulf War that was on, and I thought I could see a use of being able to help people who had been injured in the service. So that's where it started, really.
Oh wow. And then so that's when you started your training then, and that's when you sort of decided to do that job within the army, is it?
Yes, my training wasn't through the army, but while I was at university training to be a physiotherapist, I joined the officers training corps. So before that, I'd been a private in what was the territorial army, because I'd never really considered actually being an officer. But then actually qualifying as a physiotherapist, you can the military as a commissioned officer. So I sort of went a private soldier for a couple of my commission a few years later after I'd qualified and graduated.
Wow. And how was it? Because I know that you completed an operational tour of Afghanistan. What was it like?
Yeah, I had an incredible career. I managed to do a lot of adventure training, which builds your teamwork and builds your own sort of mental and physical resilience. And I did do a tour of Afghanistan, as you say, working in the field hospital. So I was the officer in command of the deployed medical rehabilitation team. So I had a team of exercise rehabilitation instructors, and we worked both in the hospital, sort of in intensive care and on the wards, and also treating patients who've come in with maybe sports injuries, or we have some of the team going out to the forward operating bases as well, and to Kandahar and Lashkar, and so satellite clinics really. So really varied job. But I would say is the highlight of my career, being able to see things that were very difficult, but also to see what some of those patients have gone on to overcome in the future. I think that's, and seeing things that medicine probably shouldn't have been able to do, but it's really sort of progressed medicine in that way. So some real positives out of an experience there.
Wow. And obviously 22 years is such a long time, so been such a massive part of your life. And I know that recently you've left that role in the army. Has that been quite strange for you, sort of coming out of that?
Yeah, it's been a big part of my life. I was a reservist for most of the time, but then I actually went to be a full-time reservist for 7 of those years. But most of my weekends were always been taken up. So it wasn't actually a choice that I wanted to leave. Unfortunately, I was medically discharged, and it's been tricky. I knew that I was going to find it difficult, so I actually planned a year of adventure. So I'd got lots of big challenges on for this year, which has obviously had a bit of a stop put to them. But it's now just looking at the situation and trying to do things differently in the situation that we're in at the moment. So it's a stepping stones to the future, really, with the goals.
And tell me about some of the things you've been doing, because I know that you're the only person on the planet that's run a marathon in every continent dressed as a different piece of fruit. So tell me about that. How did that come about?
Yeah, I'd always wanted to run the London Marathon, but just didn't think that I'd be able to make the distance or raise the amount of money that was needed for charity. And so I did my first marathon dressed as a superhero, and I managed to get the Guinness World Record for the fastest marathon dressed as a superhero. And then after that, I thought, actually, first of all, I thought I'd never do another one again. But then shortly after, I thought, yeah, I do want to do that again. And I'd already raised quite a lot of money for the charity that I was raising for. And it's hard raising money with a fundraiser. So I thought I've got to do something different, a bit more imaginative. And that's where the idea of my surname, sort of came into play. And that's where I thought I'd run as an orange, and got the Guinness World Record for the fastest marathon dressed as a piece of fruit. I then went to Afghanistan not shortly after that and ran a marathon there dressed as a banana. And yeah, before I knew it, I was sort of traveling across the world, doing different marathons, and I'd done 4 or 5 different continents. So I thought, I bet there's something in this. So yeah, it kind of, it wasn't set out. I think sometimes some of the best things that happen, you don't necessarily plan them, but it happened along the way. And yeah, only person ever to have run a marathon in every continent dressed as a piece of fruit.
I think that's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And you've done all sorts of other things as well. You've done cycling events, and you've done Ironman competitions. So you must be very sort of fit and healthy. And you've raised so much money for charities. I saw that you'd raised over £30,000 for military charities alone, and you've done stuff for lots of other charities as well. So how do you go about? We'd be interested to have some tips actually on how you go about raising these sort of huge amounts of money, because I know that a lot of people to try and raise money for the Scotties, and we're grateful for everyone's support, but it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So have you got any tips and advice for people?
Yeah, no, it's certainly, and it's certainly not an easy thing to do. And to begin with, as I said, it was one of my biggest fears, that I wouldn't be able to raise the amount that was required to do the marathon. But I think really it's thinking outside the box, and that's where the fruit came into play. And some of the other challenges, I think the bigger the challenge. So I did do the Marathon des Sables, which was 6.5 marathons in 7 days across the Sahara Desert. And with that, when I did that, I wanted people to come with me on the journey. So I asked if they would send a photograph of themselves, if they would sponsor me, send a photograph of themselves. And I had that printed out on a flag, took it out with me to the Sahara Desert, and then showed people that they were with me there in the desert. Then on returning home, while I was there, I collected a little bit of sand. Returning home, I got a little bag, put a bit of sand in it, cut the flag up so that they could have their part of the picture that had been to the Sahara, and made some little cards just saying thank you, and sent it to the individuals back. So children then were able to take them into assemblies and show and tell, and Sahara Desert sand. And I think it's just having to think outside and just do something a little bit different. But I like things that give things back to people. So rather than just asking for the fundraising, I also spent a lot of time making birthday cards or greetings cards of different sorts. And that way I was asking for a donation, but individuals were getting something for their donation. So that was another way that I raised quite a lot of money, was through the making of those cards. And they were little cards that I hadn't been very well, and I thought, what would I like to have received when I wasn't well? And it was just that somebody's thinking of you. And so it had meaning to me with all of that as well. So yeah, they're just a few different tips. Just giving, the online web, Give Penny, they're all really good. But yeah, it's being able to give value back to your donor is what I like to do as well.
I think that's really good advice, and actually those things that you've done are really lovely, and I bet that makes people want to support you more. So I think that's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. It's I find now as well that a marathon, people have the impression that I must be able to do them because I've done over 50. I can honestly say they are still just as difficult. But for me, it's got a different side to it as well with the marathons. It's wanting to show that you don't have to be the fastest or the fittest, and just that if you go out, have fun, make other people smile, and raise awareness, as well as raise money for different charities, then you can have different reasons for doing things. And just because I run marathons, other people, their 5k or their 10k, that is a marathon for them. So it's looking at the concept overall for the individual, and also remembering that person is raising for that charity. It isn't that person, it's not you're paying money to them or anything. So just different ways and different meanings with it, really.
And obviously at the moment, fundraising's kind of taken a bit of a different turn because of obviously we're all in lockdown and the mass events like the marathons aren't happening at the moment. Do you think that sort of could potentially change the future of fundraising? Because obviously people are now having to come up with different ideas. I mean, at Scotty's Little Soldiers, we've actually created a virtual fundraising platform where people can log on there and select various different virtual fundraising events. And obviously there's still the fitness things people can do, so people can still run and cycle, but people have been doing stuff sort of a lot of it within their homes as well, rather than those big mass participation events. So I was just wondering if you think it could change things forever, or do you think we'll all go back to sort of how things were?
Well, the hope is obviously that we'll go back to how things were. I, you know, like you say, during lockdown, I've had to think differently, and I've ran 3 marathons, one up and down the street, dressed as a slice of orange, one that was around around the house and back garden, dressed in Arctic kit because I was due to be running at the North Pole. So I thought, well, I'll do that and put a slice of orange on as well. And then I did another one. I was training to work at the NHS Nightingale Hospital. And so I did another one running around the hospital. And I've also done online quizzes as well, which has helped people feel connected. So I think it is having to think about what you can do in the situation that we're in. Obviously, it is hope to get back to that. But if this is where we are at the moment, we have to deal with what we've got, you know, at this time. So the virtual things are happening, and I think maybe people aren't raising quite as much, but there are a lot more people doing things. So, you know, maybe things even out in that way. And if those people are spurred on to do it now, when we're able to do it in the normal way in the future, you know, hopefully they'll continue to support the good causes that they have done already.
It's been really impressive actually to see the ideas that people have come up with, and you know, people have still been really keen to support their charities. And obviously for us at Scotty's Little Soldiers, we've just been so grateful to the support of everyone that's raised every single penny for us. But it's been great to see people coming up with all these amazing things. So it has made people think outside the box a bit. So it's actually been really interesting.
Yeah, and you know, I think sometimes, you know, with a marathon, with the virtual ones, people have been able to do that over a week. So actually it's inspired people to go, maybe I could do a marathon. I didn't think I could run that amount of miles in a week, but if I can, and they've, you know, already shown themselves more of what they could do than they couldn't previously, then they push a little bit further. So yeah, I think, you know, a lot of credit to a lot of people with the thinking and just taking on the challenges, young and old.
Exactly, yeah, it's every single age group's been able to find something, which has been brilliant.
Yeah.
And you talked there about the fact you obviously were training to be working at the Nightingale Hospital. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I'd left as a physiotherapist and had worked in the NHS before, you know, going into the army. So thought it would be almost like a field hospital, going back into that type of setting, and I, you know, really relished the experience of Afghanistan. I learned a lot, and I thought there was another opportunity again to put my skills to use. I started the training, but then, you know, greatly, really, the Nightingale Hospital wasn't required anymore. And, you know, although I didn't get to actually put the skills to use, I still have those skills. And I think it's only, you know, a real credit to the hospitals and the NHS that we haven't needed to use the NHS Nightingale Hospital in the end. So, but if there is anything to happen, there's a lot of people now trained up, ready to just step in straight away.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. It must have been a really interesting experience, actually.
It was, and the marathon that I did around the Nightingale Hospital, I put scrubs on and a face mask, and I dedicated every mile to an NHS colleague that I'd either worked with in the past, just to let them know that, you know, they're still doing the same job that they've been doing for years and years, and they're actually just getting more recognition now, which is fantastic. But, you know, I've always admired and know how hard people work in the NHS. So yeah, it's nice that they're getting the recognition now.
That's another idea of a great way of encouraging people to sort of get behind you. The fact you obviously dedicated each mile to a different NHS worker, I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah, you know, it just seemed natural, and, you know, I just did a video every mile and just, you know, said who that was, and I think people were quite shocked that, you know, yeah, you know, I didn't expect that. So you know, it's just, yeah, just a nice thing to do.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing to do. And obviously you've been raising money for the NHS, which is so needed at the moment. But I know you've also raised lots of money for military charities. And I can I get a sense that you're still very keen to be part of that military community. What does the military community mean to you? Because from speaking to obviously lots of people within the military community, it feels like it's really quite special, isn't it? And it's something that people really like to hold on to.
Yeah, I think probably the best way to liken it is to a family, you know, and people are there for each other, and they're there for each other at really difficult times. I think sometimes the military families, they don't realise that how different they are and what they've overcome already. You know, I know that a lot of people have likened their experience to lockdown because, you know, if a partner goes away on operational tour, they often don't know what's happening. They don't know when it's gonna when they're next gonna hear from somebody. So I think there's a lot of similarities, and the resilience that people have built on from that is what a lot of civilian families have been able to learn from. I feel particularly lucky that although my military career has finished, at the beginning of this year, I was appointed as the first female ambassador, national ambassador for the Army Cadet Force. So I still get to wear a uniform and have an impact for young people and bringing them into their support network and family, because, you know, I know even young cadets, that's how they describe it. They describe their, you know, families have ups and downs, so it's not all plain sailing, but generally they're together, and they're very solid and look out for each other. So yeah, I feel very honoured and privileged to move from a slightly different way to still being able to have an impact and to inspire and be inspired by the young cadets of today as well.
Well, at Scotty's Little Soldiers, obviously we support children who've lost a parent in the British Armed Forces, and we do find that a lot of these children then lose contact with the military community, and they find that quite difficult, or sort of hope that they can feel part of that. Have you got any sort of advice for young kids that would like to try and sort of feel part of that military community?
Yeah, I mean, literally from only hearing and knowing more about the Army Cadets more recently, that would be my you know, a way of connecting with people, because I think a lot of people who join Connect have some way got some connection to the military. They don't have to, and that's the beauty that it you know, brings in people who don't necessarily have that background. But a lot of the instructors, the adult volunteers, some of them have been connected to the military. Again, some haven't. But it's a way of you know, sort of young children almost honouring you know, parents who, or grandparents who in the past have done that, and gaining an understanding of, you know, what it means to take pride in yourself and you know, use the core values that there are in the military and live life through that, which I think is always a very good way to live your life with, you know, courage, and self-discipline, and, you know, all the different things that there are. So that would be my, you know, there's no requirement to want to have to go on to join the army, but it's you know, just a youth organisation that's very supportive and has so many benefits from it. So that would be probably my biggest advice, really.
That's a really, really great suggestion. And for anyone wanting to join the army as well, would that also be the best route in, do you think, to join something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a prerequisite, but I think it gives you an idea of you know, a taster of what it's like to take responsibility and to build on your leadership skills, and to, you know, some people like to be with a group of other people. Some people you know, prefer their own time. So I think it's just a very good way to test the water almost. But the great thing is there's absolutely no thoughts that everybody who joins the cadets has to go on to the army if it's found not to be somebody's thing at a different time. I always think that we need different things at different times in life. So it might suit somebody for you know, a couple of years, and they might dip in and come back to it, you know, a few years later. So it's always knowing. But I know a lot of people who did join the army because they were army cadets, and I know that they still talk about their time in the cadets now. So it obviously had such an impact on them, else they wouldn't remember those days and the things that they've gone on to go and do.
That's really great advice. That's a really good suggestion. And obviously, you just talked a bit there about sort of people needing different things at different times in their life. And obviously, at the moment, we're in a particularly strange time, and it's having a big impact on lots of people. We're finding a lot of the families that we support, a lot of the kids already face lots of different challenges, having lost a parent, and now to be in this situation, it's sort of increasing anxiety and those kind of problems. Now, I know that you're a real ambassador for mental health. Would you have any kind of tips or advice for people sort of trying to deal with this current situation?
Yeah, just it isn't easy, and I think we're all having difficulties in different ways at different times. So although we might experience the same things, we all react to it very differently. But one of the things that I found is a gratitude diary. So perhaps looking at what we do have rather than what we don't, and being grateful for the things that we're able to do each day, and just 3 things, so not overwhelming, and almost maybe thinking, if you're in a different country, we're very fortunate in this country that we have electricity, we have internet connection, and although we can't see our friends, we get the opportunity to do that virtually, which other countries maybe don't have that opportunity to do. And one of the other things is not comparing yourself with other people. I think often we aren't grateful for things because, oh well, we can see them having this or doing that, but almost being in your own little bubble and seeing what you're able to achieve, and being kind to yourself. I think we very often speak to other people in a different way than we speak to ourselves, and we're often a lot nicer to other people than we are to ourselves. If we do something wrong, straight away in our heads we say, oh, you're stupid. You wouldn't say that to a friend, you wouldn't say that to a child, so yeah, it's really the gratitude, the not comparing, and the being kind to yourself and compassionate to yourself. I think probably are the three main things, because people, there's no point saying don't be anxious, because that's almost like telling an asthmatic, well, just breathe. If it's a feeling that you've got, it's working with that feeling and working around it, to try and lessen it rather than take it away completely.
That's really great advice. Thank you. And do you find that sort of all these incredible things you're doing, all the training you're doing and running marathons and all that kind of thing, do you think that's helpful for mental health as well? Do you find sort of having a focus in that way helps you personally?
I think sort of physical activity is very well known to increase endorphins and make an individual feel better. But just because I run marathons, I think some people think that that's an amazing thing, but for some people, actually getting out every day and doing 3K, 5K a day is just as impressive to me, that other people would do that. So again, it's taken away that comparison, that I don't think I'm anyone special or different. I've just found something that gives me a sense of sort of purpose and a sense of achievement. And when I say that sense of purpose, the fruit running for me is often to try and raise awareness of mental health. I said about making people smile, but people come and ask me why I'm dressed as a piece of fruit. And if I'm able to say, because I want to raise awareness of mental health, then people start talking about it, and they often mention they know somebody who's had a problem, they've had a problem. And it's just a very subtle way. I haven't got a sign on my head saying mental health, but that getting people talking about it. So there's differences with why I do some of the things. I just get to meet a lot of people and spread a message in a different way, really.
And you're often referred to as being inspirational. And in fact, you and Nikki Scott, who's our founder, have both been, you're both finalists for a Soldiering On Award in the inspiration category. So you'll be up against each other on that. But how do you sort of find being called inspirational? What does that sort of feel like for you?
It's something I struggled with, if I'm completely honest, because I do just feel a normal person, and I just do I put a fruit costume on every now and again. So I struggle with the title. But then an incredible honour, first of all, to have been nominated, to then get to the final. And when I look around and see, there's 3 of us in the final. I actually know, as you say, Nikki and Lee, who's the other finalist, and I see the incredible things that they've done. And it just takes any part of competition or anything out of it, because I have, to be honest, if I was to win, I'd get them up on stage with me as well, because I wouldn't see it as just being, especially as I've supported both, the charities that they raise for as well. So it's, for me, it's a great thing to have been able to meet, because I just like being surrounded by positive people who are doing different, inspirational things as well. So I just see it as an opportunity to meet more nice people.
And I know that you say you haven't done anything sort of incredible or that special, but I mean, I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing, because most people haven't done the things that you've done. But what do you think is what are you most proud of out of all the things you've done? What's the thing that really stands out to you that you feel really proud of?
I think probably it's the awareness, and the money that's been raised for charity. And in the grand scheme of things, compared to some people, again, it's that comparison thing. It isn't that much, but if it gets the word out and gets the message out, I think there's probably 30 different charities over the years that I've been either raised for or raised awareness for. And that's just as important, to let other people know that there are other things going on. So yeah, I mean, I feel incredibly privileged to have done a lot of the things that I've done. And from that, I take a real responsibility, because I do believe that with privilege, there's responsibility. So spreading the message is probably what I'm proudest of doing, rather than the actual physical achievement itself.
Oh, that's really great. And what are your plans for the future? What's next for you?
Yeah, well, still sort of waiting to find out with lockdown, but some of it that I have been doing is I've put a bit of my story into a book, into a children's book actually, which looks at physical activity, healthy eating, and mental health, because I feel that they're almost like a triangle, that you need each of the one of those 3 things to help each other, and just looking at it in a fun way. And so talking about thoughts, feelings, emotions, such as fear, such as anxiety, and how often it could stop us doing things. But if we can get over that, those little things that I talked about, by either not comparing or reasoning in a different way, then hopefully it will give people goals to aim for. And so yeah, it's just just a fun way of sort of telling a bit of my story, showing the different parts of the world that there are, the 7 continents, the different costumes, the different fruits. There'll be a few recipes in there as well. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. And also got a really big project that's will be released quite soon, regarding mental health and the cadets, and physical activity as well. So it's exciting things to come.
Wow, I'm really looking forward to the book, particularly. That sounds incredible. So is that something you're working on at the moment then?
Yeah, it's called A Fruitful Life by Sally Orange.
Brilliant.
And yeah, just that hopefully towards July time that will be out. So it's, having used lockdown again, it's time to sort of sit down. And I haven't been able to use the physical challenges quite the same, so just thought of doing it in a different way. And I've also now got a website to be able to share the story, which I'd never had before. I've never sort of promoted anything that I've really done. So it's just a little bit about my journey so far, and hopefully that can help others overcome things as well.
And what's your website, just so we can let everyone know your website, so they know how to find you?
It's www.sallyorange.com.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great, and we'll really look forward to seeing the book. Can't wait to see that.
Well, I'll definitely be donating some to Scotty's for sure. And and if we're still in virtual, we could maybe do a story reading or something, or you could, so that some of the children could hear that. And then maybe at a later date, I quite often take my costumes into schools and get the children dressed up. So just having a fun day with everybody dressed as different fruit costumes. It's just so colourful, and it's surprising how different children with different challenges, they can forget about things when they're dressed as a banana or a watermelon or an apple.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. And thank you so much for all your support of Scotty's Little Soldiers, because I know that you've done quite a lot for us over the years. So we're really grateful for all your support. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I did a Barcelona marathon as a watermelon with a Scotty's logo on there, with some other people from Scotty who was running for Scotty's as well. So yeah, always love to support whenever I can, and hopefully, as I say, the book can help support in a different way as well.
Yeah, no, we'd absolutely love that. That would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you for watching today's On the Scotty Couch with Sally Orange. If you'd like to find out more about Sally and all the things she's doing, you can go to her website. It's www.sallyorange.com. And to find out more about Scotty's Little Soldiers, go to www.scottieslittle soldiers.co.uk, or you can follow us on social media. Thank you for watching.